We turn now to the one-year anniversary this weekend of the Dobbs decision, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that threw out a woman's constitutional right to an abortion. Late last week, Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs and advocates for reproductive rights laid out their path forward.
So I want to be very clear. The intent and the effort is to get this passed. But if it fails to pass, people need to know, because this is a right that is under real threat right now.
Democratic State Representative Athena Solomon says she plans to introduce a bill next year that would protect reproductive rights, including the right to an abortion, for all Arizona residents. If the Republican-controlled legislature doesn't pass the bill, called the Arizona Right to Contraception Act, the next step appears to be gathering signatures for a statewide vote in November 2024 on a right to contraception. Our first guest will likely have a big role to play in any statewide vote. Brittany Fonteno is President and Chief Executive Officer of Planned Parenthood of Arizona. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about the impact of the Dobbs decision, but first, that potential statewide ballot initiative has been out there for quite a while now. I think I've spoken to you about it, certainly to the governor about it. What role would Planned Parenthood play in organizing or funding that initiative?
That's a great question. And so, first of all, we know that the support is out there. We know that there is a really groundswell from all corners of the state to make sure that we are restoring reproductive rights, and specifically the right to accessible abortion. Over the past couple of months, Planned Parenthood Arizona has been working in coalition with partner organizations to really go through a thorough exploratory process. We've been researching, we've been polling, we've been really trying to understand what the appetite is and what's possible in our current political climate. I can't give many details right now, but you'll be among the first to know once we do make a public announcement.
It seems like an inevitability. Arizona is not the only state where this might happen. Nationally, there's a push in Congress to do something. It's very unlikely the Republican-controlled legislature is going to do anything on this.
Right, and so that is why it's so important that we take this decision out of the hands of politicians and we put it back in the hands of people, which is where it belongs.
I want to talk about messaging for a moment and how that's changed. This was the right to an abortion, then it became reproductive rights. Now it's a right to contraception. Why has abortion been removed from that discussion?
I think that abortion is always central to a discussion about bodily autonomy and reproductive freedom. Contraception, we know, is wildly popular in the U.S. It's incredibly safe. A majority of women and people of reproductive age will use birth control at some point in their reproductive lives. And so as advocates and providers of abortion care, we always try to speak openly, boldly, and compassionately about this service because it is still widely misunderstood despite its widespread support.
So let's get to the one-year anniversary. Give us a before and after snapshot here in Arizona, if you can, regarding women's access to reproductive services since the decision. What's changed?
Oh my goodness, so much has changed. We've really been on a roller coaster over the past year in Arizona and across the country. But Arizona in particular has been ground zero for a chaotic and confusing and complex legal environment regarding abortion rights. So I think what's really important for people to understand is that while Roe was the law of the land before the Supreme Court overturned it, there was still a lot of challenges and barriers to accessing comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care, and in particular abortion care. Arizona has been one of the most hostile states to abortion rights in the country for many years. There were over 40 restrictions on the books before Roe fell, and some of these restrictions, for instance, is a requirement for 2 appointments, and a medically unnecessary ultrasound, counseling by physicians that contains medically inaccurate information. So all of these barriers were put into place before before Roe fell so that it would make abortion inaccessible, particularly for those who need it most. In the past year, we have seen such a ping-pong effect in terms of the laws in Arizona. So abortion was legal, then it was illegal, and not just illegal, but criminalized. And so I think that that's really important for people to understand that there was our former state attorney general actually went to court and tried to reinforce a Civil War era abortion ban that criminalized providers, doctors who were providing compassionate care to their patients. Thankfully, Planned Parenthood Arizona led the charge in court, the court of law and the court of public opinion, really taking into account the former attorney general. And thankfully, we got a really great decision from the Court of Appeals that affirmed that abortion is legal through 15 weeks of pregnancy. So we are proud to still be providing abortion care at our health centers. And despite these cruel attacks, we're still standing and our doors are still open.
But talk about that. How has abortion care decreased? Planned Parenthood was the largest provider of abortion services. How much has that decreased since this ruling?
There's absolutely been a decrease, and I would say that Planned Parenthood and the many independent abortion providers in Arizona are just not able to meet the need. First and foremost, we went from the line being fetal viability in terms of what Roe set as the precedent. We're now living under an abortion ban that cuts off access after 15 weeks of pregnancy. People still need access to abortion care after 15 weeks of pregnancy for a variety of reasons, even though the majority of abortions actually take place in the first trimester. So
overwhelming
majority take place in the first trimester. And I think it's really important for people to understand who gets abortions at that point in pregnancy after 15 weeks because of genetic or fetal abnormalities, incompatibilities with life, challenges for the pregnant person's life or health. And so we have just seen such an increase of out-of-state patients, particularly from Texas and other hostile states in the Midwest, coming to Arizona. And we still have to take care of our own communities. We're not able to fully meet the needs, but we are strategically planning to continue expanding access in our clinics to be able to serve people more.
And I want to return to the legal fight because it's not over. The 15-week ban on abortion after 15 weeks is in place, but that Civil War era ban, 159 years old now, I believe, is still out there and is still before the Arizona Supreme Court. If you can just briefly tell us what is happening at that court and will the court hear it?
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I think a lot of people celebrated, obviously, when the Court of Appeals affirmed the right to abortion through 15 weeks of pregnancy. However, the fight is not over. We're not out of the woods yet. So we have an Attorney General, Chris Mays, who is a strong champion for reproductive freedom. She has said time and time again throughout her campaign and afterwards that she would never prosecute someone for obtaining or providing an abortion. However, there is interest from other parties in trying to make the Supreme Court take this case in an effort to throw out the Court of Appeals' earlier decision. And so we are watching and waiting.
So we are waiting for the Supreme Court to say whether they're going to take up this challenge.
Whether they're going to take it. Of course, our perspective is there's nothing to see here. The court has already decided. The law is very clear. 15 weeks of pregnancy is the cutoff, and our responsibility now is to fight forward and try to legally expand that so that people have more access to care.
Got to end it there. Brittany Fonteno, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.